And we are live. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Billy Rowe. Today is Tuesday, so you know what that means. It's actually time for a first row Intersations. Tonight's topic is what to do with your passion. Hopefully, we all have a passion, or there's something that we hold dear and close to our hearts that we can resonate with in this message and in these stories that are shared tonight. With that, I want to go ahead and really briefly allow my guest, Steven Sylvester, do him bad anytime he's in the equipment or in the pads. Get on the mic really quick and just say hello really quick.
Hi, people. How are you doing tonight?
All right. So as always, I like to share what Intersation is because it's still a new concept. What Intersation is it's a combination of interview and conversation. And when you put those two things together, you get Intersation. So for me, I have a ton of conversations in my life that with friends, with family, with all sorts of people, professionals. And typically those conversations with me or with them go very deep. They go beyond that surface level of, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? How's your kids? Down into deeper levels about things that are really meaningful to them. And so I'm privy to a lot of stories that help me reflect inwardly and look at different ways for myself to grow based on their experiences. So what Intersations is literally me opening up a lens through the camera into those conversations. And it's, though you'll see tonight with Steven and I communicating back and forth, this is very much a open conversation. So for those who are available on the live video, you're welcome to engage with us in the live chat, to place any comments, place any questions, place any additional contributions that you want to make to this conversation so that we all have the ability to grow from this conversation. So with that, again, the topic tonight is going to be what to do with passion. But first, before we get into that topic, I want to give my guest, Steven, a moment to introduce himself. Steven, can you introduce yourself, please?
I appreciate it, Billy. My name's Steven Sylvester. I'm currently the running backs coach at Jacksonville University down in Jacksonville, Florida. Really excited to be here with Billy. Failed to mention he's actually my older cousin. So it's really, really fun to be on here with him and see the things that he's doing, and really, really proud of him. But like I said, really excited to be here, really excited to get this conversation going about something that I'm really passionate about. And I'm thankful to Billy to give me an opportunity and a platform to explain and share with you guys how much I enjoy doing what I do.
Hey, well, first off, when you tell them I'm your older cousin, your big cousin, you need to really specify that you are way bigger than I am. I'm all of 5'8", 225 pounds. So you're my big little cousin.
Absolutely.
So, that's first. Hey, what's going on, brother Bruce? Thanks for tuning in tonight. I appreciate it. And I seen you voted. Congratulations. Way to make that happen in California. So with that, I always like to start off with my guests on the exact same question. Since we're talking about the topic of what to do with passion, what does that topic mean for you?
It means everything to me. When you're really looking for your passion, you have to find something first, most importantly, that you're passionate about. And I had a college professor actually one time tell me, make your passion your purpose. And I try to live by that every single day in my line of work and what I do and the people that I get a chance to interact with and the lives that I get a chance to touch.
I like that. Make your passion. I was writing that down. Make your passion your purpose. Mm-hmm. That's a legitimate nugget right there, right off the top. See, this is why we do Intersations, right off the top. Nugget. If you ain't making your passion your purpose, then I don't know what you're doing with yourself. So, so I have tons of questions that I want to get into, but I always also like to share what the topic means for me. And when I think about what to do with your passion, passion is something that I feel we're never going to be comfortable with being or lying dormant, like just being inert or inactive. Passion is something that calls you in the middle of the night, that hounds you throughout the day, that is constantly on your helmet about engaging with it. And so for me, when it's like what to do with passion, it's like, well, there's not very much you cannot do with it. I think personally that passion has to be somehow you have to figure a way to integrate passion throughout your life or your passions into your life, right? Make it really your lifestyle. One of the things for me moving to Utah in a place where I don't really know anybody and being on my own and having this massive amount of alone time, was that I realized part of my passion was engaging with people and hearing stories and promoting growth and having deep conversation. And so I had to figure out a way to incorporate that. And thus Intersations was born, because it's like, well, no matter where, I'm in Utah, you're in Florida. It doesn't matter about the miles because technology allows us to connect. So I definitely agree with you. You make your passion your purpose, and then you integrate that into your life. Hey, right. Sylvia, I see you over there too, girl. So with that, I do want to jump right into these questions, because you're going to find that an hour of time goes by super fast. So the first question that I have for you, the first real question after you told us what you feel like the topic meant, is what is the difference to you between somebody's passion versus somebody's hobby?
Really, for me, I think that a hobby is something that you're okay with picking up and putting down, every now and then. You may decide to play golf, once every couple of weeks, or you may decide to go for a jog, or, go bird watching. It's something that you are comfortable with picking up and putting down. With a passion, it's something that's almost involuntary. It's something that you really can't do without. And even when you try to do without it, like you kind of said before, it calls you in the night almost. Without a shadow of a doubt, I feel as if that I'm walking in my passion, because it's something that I can't go, 24 hours, 24 seconds without thinking about without it crossing my mind. So a hobby, I think for sure, is something that, if you don't do it, you'll be fine. A passion is something that regardless, you're going to find a way to get that done.
So question, do you feel like, because you said a hobby is something you can pick up and you put down, and you get to it when you get to it, and you don't when you don't. Right. Do you ever feel like your hobbies have the ability to lead you to or help you reveal what your passions are? Or do you feel like your passions reveal themselves?
Yes, I do think that your hobby can lead to what your passion is. I see that Stephen Harris here said that you can be passionate about your hobby, and I definitely agree with that. And I believe that can lead you further down the rope if it's something that, you're really, really passionate about. It's something that can for sure become your hobby. So I definitely think that your hobby can lead to your passion.
Okay. And so for you, so being that your hobby can lead to your passion, and the hobby being something that's not, I guess, as provoking as your passion is, how did you learn the difference, or how did you identify, not just with the fact that you're putting things down, but how did you identify what you were passionate about? Like, I'm going to kind of like spoiler alert a little bit, but I know that you're passionate about football. Mm-hmm. How did you discover that football was like your passion?
Well, ironically, it wasn't until I was away from the game that I realized that it was something that I was really passionate about. So upon graduating and leaving Georgia Tech, where I went to college, I tried the whole NFL thing. And to get into the NFL, as everybody knows, those numbers are astronomical. So I actually took what I call a regular people job. And when I say a regular people job, I started working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and I was in the management trainee program. Okay. And I met a lot of cool people. I cultivated a lot of relationships and friendships that I still hold near and dear to my heart to this day. But at the end of the day, I realized that whatever it was that I was supposed to be doing, it wasn't that. So I had the opportunity to go back, and I talked to my college football coach, Paul Johnson, who I think the world of. And I was kind of expressing to him my feelings and everything that I had going on inside. And he asked me, he said, well, Steve, did you ever think about coaching before? And I said, Coach, I don't think that life is what I want to do. You could be living in Florida, and your next opportunity may be halfway across the country. You just don't know what's going to come next. And he said, well, if you think about it, Steve, it's actually the exact same thing as playing in the NFL, except you're not getting beat on every day. And when he said that, it made complete sense. And I noticed a lot of the times, like, I'd be sitting in my car at Enterprise on my lunch break or doing something, and I find myself listening to football talk radio, which is something that I had never done in my life before. And then when I also in my conversation with Coach, I realized that, I had always had a knack and a voice for leadership. For whatever reason, growing up, even from a small age, I said something, and for whatever reason, people tended to listen. I was elected team captain as a senior at Georgia Tech out of 100 and something guys. So, I mean, I felt like he was on to something. So once he put that nugget in my ear, I started to pursue that nonstop. And, 6-7 years later, here I am.
So in hindsight, you have the benefit of looking back. Had that nugget not been placed, do you think you would have been able to find your way back to the game?
Eventually, I would like to say yes. But truth be told, I have no idea. I know that, like I said, I was unhappy in the position that I was at there. So something had to change. Now, if I would have gotten to college coaching, I don't know. But I do know that I wouldn't have been at Enterprise, that much longer.
We'll pick you up.
Absolutely. And like I said, that's nothing against Enterprise, because they do pick you up and they do hire college athletes. So nothing but respect for those guys, because they gave me an opportunity.
Hey, no, every time I rent a car, I typically rent from Enterprise, because they don't play. I'm not knocking them for their hustle. So football is one of your passions, but for me, I have multiple passions. So like me, manhood is one of my passions. Like, I'm really big on what it is to be a man. And I mean, I try to promote that as much as I can with my 3 sons that I have. I'm big on cultivating communication between opposing sides. I'm also big, obviously, on YouTube as far as opening up dialogue and opening up content. There's many passions that I have, and some of them overlap and some of them kind of operate on their own.
Right.
But what other passions have you found or uncovered or discovered that you have in life at this present time?
Well, right now, I think my number one passion is my wife and my family. That's another topic for another day and another conversation. But ultimately, I think my passion is the mentorship that you can develop into these young men. A lot of the times with the profession that I'm in, you deal with a lot of men that for whatever reason don't have father figures in their lives. So when they get to college and they're 18, 19 years old and they're looking for that next step of leadership and that guidance, they're looking at you. So I've really found a lot of enjoyment and a lot of fulfillment from that aspect of it, that I get a chance not only to coach these young men to go out there and play a game on Saturday, but also get a chance to prepare them for life after football, because no matter what you do, no matter how well you do in the sport, there is going to come a time when you have to put it down, and you have to be okay with doing that. And you have to be prepared for that, and not just from a financial standpoint, but, as a man standpoint as well.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, that man standpoint?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, and this is just my personal opinion, but I think football is the greatest teacher in the world. I think that it prepares you for a lot of life lessons that you can go back and you can relate certain things. For example, I remember when we moved to Jacksonville, there were some times where it was like, babe, I don't know how we're going to make this happen. I don't know how we're going to make that happen. And in my mind, all I thought was, it's 4th and inches and you have to make a play. Right. And I know that, from playing football, that's where my mind went. That's ultimately what I thought. And, I was able to make a play because we're still here. So had I not had that experience and that preparation from my coaches and my pupils and my peers, I don't think that I would have been able to, make anything happen.
Okay. I like that. That you definitely have to make a play, because guess what? If not, you get what the current brings you, and the current don't always bring what you want.
No,
so,
it doesn't.
You gotta make a play. So for my next question, I want to ask you, how has the time that you spent with your passion changed over the years? So you said there was a moment where you kind of were away from football and you went to what you call a regular people's job,
right?
Or a regular person's job. But now you're interacting with your passion of leadership, mentorship, football. You're interacting with those passions more, obviously, as a coach. Right. But how has that time that you spent with your passion kind of had those ebbs and flows?
It's definitely increased because as you progress in the business, as you progress, in your leadership, responsibilities change. People become more comfortable with you. They become more comfortable with sharing certain things with you. And a lot of times you find yourself taking that home sometimes. And you spend a lot more time with it sometimes than you would want to. But at the end of the day, I think you realize how necessary that stuff is. So from the time that I started, playing football to when I first got into coaching until now, it's heightened tremendously. And that's not just from a mentorship standpoint, that's from a preparation standpoint as well.
So as it's heightened, with anything that we experience in life, we can have extreme focus on something, but sometimes we have, Bruce will definitely account to this, sometimes we have those squirrel moments where we get distracted and we're left and we're right and we're not on task. Number one, have you had experiences like that where you maybe have been distracted from your passion, and how were you able to bring your focus back into your passion?
Oh, for sure. I've definitely been distracted from my passion. And I think it kind of goes back to what distracts everybody from their passion. I think you believe in putting the cart before the horse, as some would say. You know, you get enamored with everything that you see, whether it be on social media, whether it be on TV. You see everybody else doing well, so to speak. And at certain times, it's almost easy to say, well, how come I'm not doing that? Or maybe I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Because you see people that, you know, you may have worked with at some other point, or somebody that you've kind of followed their career, and you see them progressing. It's like, hey, I think I know more than that guy. Or, you know, he didn't put in the same amount of work that I put in. You know, how come he's doing that? You know, why is he driving that car? And you get away from why you got to it in the first place. You know, if it was about the money, you'd probably be doing something else. You know, I kind of define passion as something that you would do for free. You know, as long as you got an opportunity to do it, you do it for free. And that's what you just have to keep reminding yourself of. I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to tell me, you know, whatever's for you, no man can deny you of that. So as long as you stay on your path and you do what you're supposed to do, you have to be confident in the fact that you're right where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
I like that. No man can deny you of what is for you or what is yours. No man can deny you of that. That is a true statement. I think sometimes what happens is we actually end up denying ourselves because we start focusing on everybody who's living their best life, which is a social media thing. It's not a reality thing. I mean, I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I put a post up and it was me, like I was fake crying. But I was like, nobody ever really puts on their selfie. Nobody takes a selfie and like when they're crying. They don't take a selfie when they're depressed. They don't take a selfie when they're trying to get the ends to meet at the end of the month. They don't take selfies of that, and they're not posting that on social media. So social media does have a way of skewing what we perceive success to be, and it has a way of skewing what we perceive our own success to be. So I think that's a completely valid and poignant point that you're making there, that sometimes we get distracted from our passions because of the fact that we're so busy looking to the left at what the Joneses have or what the Smiths have or what whoever has that we don't necessarily have. Really what happens is things come in the time that they're supposed to come to us. But the problem is that half the time, if you spend all your time looking at what everybody else has, you're not preparing for the opportunity. So then the opportunity comes and you can't even seize that opportunity. So no question. I definitely value that. So contrary to the distractions of your passion, what do you feel has also brought your passions like into focus? Kind of like if you were to be wearing glasses and those glasses were to help you see clearly what your passion is. What are those things that have operated as that focal or that lens to help bring your passions into clear view?
I definitely believe in small affirmations. You know, I think that I have the best job in the world because I get a chance to interact with, 18 to 22, 23-year-old kids every single day. And regardless of what a lot of people think, they'll be really transparent with you. So, it may come up in casual conversation where you're talking about, maybe school or maybe a play that happened, or maybe they're having an issue with their girlfriend. And, they'll say things like, well, coach, if you weren't here, I don't know where I'd be. Or, I was about to make a terrible decision. Somebody did something to me or said something to me, disrespected me. And all I could hear in the back of my head was your voice saying X, Y, and Z, so right in those moments of discouragement or you're questioning yourself of, man, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I believe that God will send you little signals like that to show you that, hey, man, everything's okay. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing because somebody is appreciating you because you're changing a life. And ultimately, that's what I'm doing. I tell my guys all the time that absolutely I care about wins and losses. And any coach that tells you that they don't, they're lying to you. But if you leave here with, number one, your degree, and then number two, you leave a better son or brother or husband or dad, I feel like my job is more than done at that point, because at the end of the day, we're developing leaders for the next generation. And, you want to be a catalyst for that. You want to be one of the guys that said, hey, I remember that kid when he was doing X, Y, and Z. And hopefully one day, if any of my kids are watching this right now, hopefully one day, when they're the president of the United States or the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, they'll remember what old Coach Cadillac told them in 2018, So I think that that's really, really cool.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. It's funny because I feel I agree with you. When you're on your path, I call them breadcrumbs. There's these little breadcrumbs that just appear along the way. Like you'll be thinking, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is what feels right. And those breadcrumbs pop up, and it's like, oh, just when I thought I was going to get hungry, or just when I thought I was lost, boom, there's another breadcrumb just reconfirming that you're on the right path and that you're making the right choices and that you're making a difference. Like one of the things for me, like doing video I started off on Facebook and just sharing an experience that I had. And that experience led to another video and another video and another video. And then it was like, I'm sharing my thoughts. And then it was like, I had my own Facebook page. And now it's like, I have my own YouTube channel. It's these things are just creating crumbs. And I mean, Intersations is still relatively young. I started it at the end of September, but I'm already booked out on Intersations till the middle of next year. I mean, I'm sorry, next January. So it's like those little things that just like keep you going towards your passion. Sometimes, I mean, I think this will be my next question. Have you ever had times where you felt fatigued in your passion and just wanted to give up?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, you'll be surprised some of the stories that you get brought or some of the questions that you ask. And, I'm still relatively young in the business. I'm 29. So a lot of things that, they ask me, I may not necessarily have the answers for. And I'm one of those guys where if I don't know the answer to something, I'm definitely going to exhaust myself trying to figure it out. So that way I can go back to them and try to put them on the right path. But there's certain days where I just walk in and you'll think that it's going to be an easy day, so to speak, and you'll get hit in the chest with a ton of bricks. And you're like, man, this isn't what I signed up for. And I don't know if I have the mental capacity to deal with this for the rest of the day. But you also remember that every day, whatever, regardless of what you decide to do, it's not going to be easy. And you're going to have to roll up your sleeves. Like my dad would say, pick yourself up by the bootstraps, and you're just going to have to get it done. But there's definitely days, I'd be lying to you if I said that I go in every single day and there's nothing that discourages me or hinders me in what I'm supposed to be doing.
So I'm going to ask everybody in the chat this question. Have you ever had those moments where you feel like you wanted to give up on your passion? Or maybe have you had those moments where you felt like you didn't even know what your passion was and you're kind of grasping at straws? And the reason I want to ask this question is because my question for you, Steven, is why do you think hey, what's going on, cousin Rod?
What's up, Pops?
Oh, that's Pops. Oh, my bad. I thought it was cousin. But why do you think that people fail to implement their passions?
I think it's because as people, I think we're a results-driven species. And I think that if you can't necessarily see the end game, or you can't, predict the end game or say, if I do this, this is going to happen, I think that scares a lot of people. And honestly, it scares me sometimes. But I think what you have to realize is that you're not control. Well, to a certain extent, you're in control of your own destiny, but the book's already written. It's just up to you to continue to do what you think that you're supposed to be doing. And eventually you'll get to where you're supposed to be at. But I definitely think that has a lot to do with it. Just the fact that, if you can't necessarily see it or touch it right now, it must not be real. And that's not the case whatsoever.
And I think that has also become a lot more difficult in the world we live in now, where there's technology that makes gratification almost instantaneous, where you have back in the day, I had in elementary school a pen pal that I had to write to and mail a letter to. And wait until they read the letter and then send me back a letter after
they sent you back a letter.
Right. Now we got text messages. I'm like, hey, what are you up to? Are you busy tonight? Hey, I'm thinking about having a barbecue. Send. And within seconds, I got a message. Yeah, I'm off this weekend. Like it's the time delay is so vastly different now that it's like I feel like sometimes we think life operates in that where, like you said, you're doing all this work or you're doing all these things and you don't see the results. You don't see the harvest. Well, just like any seed that you plant, you have to nurture that seed and water that seed and make sure it has the right light and make sure it has all the things that it needs. And all that time that you're doing that, you don't see that it's growing underground, that it's sprouting roots so that it can absorb the nutrients that you're giving it, that it's moving its way to the surface. And then eventually it gets to the surface and it's like little spud. That's it. That's
right.
All this work for the past 2 months and this is all I got. And then all of a sudden, through consistent action, you get a tomato plant or you get a watermelon or you get whatever plant or whatever seed you've been planting. I was listening today to Earl Nightingale, and he talks about, the ground is this neutral base. It's a neutral, doesn't care what you plant in it base. But you can plant poison, you can plant happiness, you can plant joy, you can plant whatever you want to plant in it. And based upon whatever you plant and what you water and what you nurture, that will grow. The problem is that we don't see it growing, so we start nurturing the poisonous thoughts of, man, this is never going to work, or this is never going to be what I thought it was going to be. Why am I wasting my time with this?
Right.
The way I keep myself going on Intersations and anything that I do video wise online is if I'm only talking to myself, at least I have a video journal diary of what my thought was that day that I could go back to and maybe learn something from myself in the future. So I definitely agree with you that it's about, not wanting that instant gratification and being willing to make the investment up front. Right. So my next question for you is let me think of how I actually want to ask this. So I know you interact with your main passion in coaching today. And you kind of mentioned about the mentorship that you have with these young men. I really want you to kind of dive into that because that's an area that resonates very strongly with me as far as mentorship of young men. I love you ladies, but us men need some help. And so I'm going to put my attention on the men. So can you kind of dive into that a little bit on how you engage with these young men, whether it's, like you said, making sure they're getting their grades done or working with them on plays outside of practice or whatever it may be.
Well, what I've told my guys and what I tell them, I'll tell their parents, I tell anybody that the one thing that you can know about me is that I'm always going to be a resource for you. I want you to feel comfortable enough to come and talk to me about anything. So my door is always open, regardless. I have kids that'll call me 10:30 at night. Hey, coach, this is what I'm dealing with, so on and so forth. And I think that all starts with how you approach them. And I think one of the things that I've learned over the course of my coaching is that every kid is tremendously different. You can't coach, you can't mentor, you can't do a lot of the same things with any two kids because no two kids are wired the same. So I think what it is for me is I try to get to know them on a personal level and see what makes them tick. As everybody knows that's familiar with coaching, I think yelling is I think that's a part of the job description. I think they actually interview you and they make you scream in every single interview to test your yelling voice. But I do know that doesn't work for every kid. So, what motivates one may completely put another one in their shell. And that's the last thing that I want. So I try to watch the kids and learn their mannerisms. I think some of the best advice that I've ever received in my life also came from my mom. And she told me whenever you're in a situation where you're uneasy or you don't necessarily know everybody or you're trying to feel something out, the best thing that you can do is sit back and observe. You never want to be the loudest guy in a room and try to make your presence known. You want to sit back and observe. So that way you can pick up on cues and hints of people, because I believe by watching people, they'll tell you anything that you want to know about them without even saying a word. So I try to see what makes everybody tick, and I'll try to build off of that. So if I know that I have a kid that's, if you look at him and he's kind of self-conscious about his appearance, the first thing I may say is, boy, you wearing them shoes today? Or I noticed you've been brushing that hair. You got them waves coming in really nicely. So that way it kind of, breaks down that initial wall of whatever they're dealing with. And then from there, they know that you're a guy that's probably going to be pretty open and honest with them. You're going to be a guy that they can come to about something that's not necessarily football related. I think that that's huge in whatever profession you do. I think that if you're in any position of power, I think you have to let the people know that are quote unquote under you, that you care about them as more than just an employee, so to speak. And I think that's what I try to do with my guys all the time. So if we're in the meeting, I may bring my wife in, just to let them know that, hey, we're a family, so you can come to me about anything more than football. You can be comfortable, around my dog or whatever, my parents, my brother, relatives, anybody that I'll bring in. I try to cultivate that relationship, that environment that ultimately makes them feel as comfortable as possible.
Mm. So it sounds like you engage quite a bit.
Oh, no doubt.
Passion on
in the course of a season, I give tremendous hats off to my wife, because in the course of a season, I'm with those guys way more than I'm with her. So I'm with them, for meals, for travel, for movies, for meeting. I'm checking their academics daily. So I'm with them a solid, 12, 13 hours a day in season. So we spend a lot of time together.
So with that time that you're spending, because the time that you're spending with them is actually time, fortunately for you, that you're spending with your passion. How much of that is obligation? How much of that is incidental? How much of that is actually intentional time that you're spending with them?
If I think it's a little bit of all three, honestly. And I think it's pretty equal parts. Obviously, obligated to be there, because that's how I get paid every month. That's how, my bills get paid. That's how my wife gets to get a pair of shoes. So I'm obligated to be there, by, if you can say law. Incidentally, that's also a big part of it, because like I said, you'll stumble upon certain things that you may not necessarily have stumbled upon if you weren't there. And then the other one I believe you said was intentional. It's about 33% intentional as well, because, if I want to get the best out of those kids, whether it be on the field or in life, I obviously have to be, somewhat intentional in my delivery, and somewhat intentional in what my interaction with them is every day. So I think that it's probably equal parts of all three. It's just a matter of when and where you're going to get what part.
Okay. And that's fair. So I know that you're paid obviously for your passion. But in the beginning, you said that passion is something that you would do for free.
Mm-hmm.
How a lot of people, I think, I know myself, this was a question that I had to ask myself. How do you, or how did you, or how do you think would be, what do you think would be the best way for a person to transition from their passion being something that they would do for free versus something that they actually do to either earn an income, whether that's a subsidiary income, or earn a living?
Really, I think it's about, are you willing to start, from the bottom up? When I started, most college coaches, you have to start as a graduate assistant. And basically what you are is you're a grad student, and you're kind of how can I say this? A not so greatly paid intern, so it was just, I had a stipend for meals, I had a stipend for housing, and then outside of that, that was it. But I think if it's something that you're truly passionate about, you'll keep digging, you'll keep grinding until something eventually pops up. I think it's all about making your intentions known. I think that if it's something that you want to do, for it to become something that's that pays you, so to speak, I think you have to let people know that, hey, this is what I'm doing. I really, really enjoy doing it. But, if I could, pursue this as a career, I could pursue this full time, that would be ideal. But if not, I understand that as well. But ultimately, this is what I want to do.
Okay. So because you're paid for your passion actually is work. But in this conversation, I'm not sensing like I'm sure there's days where it's like, dang, I'm tired. This is work. But I'm not sensing that the overall, there's a majority of days that it feels like work. I feel like there's more days that it feels like passion. Um, what are some good ways to kind of keep your passion from becoming that mundane, draining work?
I think it's realizing that there's about, whatever you're doing. I think that you have to realize that there's about, a million other people that would trade shoes with you instantly, and that's what keeps me humble. And it is the fact of there are certain days where I'm dog tired or, that I just don't want to do it. Or, man, I feel like I'm going to choke one of these kids if they say this one more time, but I think at the end of the day, I think you have to realize why you're doing it in the first place. Is because, for me, is because I feel like football, so to speak, saved my life. It kept me out of a lot of trouble that I think that I could have found if I didn't play the game. And then at the end of the day, like I said before, and I keep going back to it because I really, really believe in it, I'm trying to develop young men, to be leaders from here on out. So I think it's the age old debate of, do I do this because I want to, or do I do it because I love it? And right now, I think you can't tell me I'm on top of the world every single day that I get a chance to go to work, because not only is it something that I grew up doing, it's something that I'm able to get paid for now. So it's kind of a win-win.
Mm. So what are I'm glad you said that. It's something that you were doing when you were younger. So your passion, let's just take leadership. Your passion for leadership when you were younger, whether you did it willingly or unwillingly, because I feel like when we're younger, sometimes leadership is thrusted upon us, and we may not want to take that because we don't want to be responsible for anything. But your passion for leadership and the original purpose of leadership being mentorship, what tools or what methods have you used to protect that original purpose, even in being a coach, even when you're working for enterprise, even in other ventures that you probably worked in, even when you're going to school at Georgia Tech? Like, how are you able to protect that passion and that overall sense of purpose?
I think it's not forgetting that. I think that it sounds basic and it kind of sounds elementary, but I think that that's the main ingredient to it, is not forgetting why you're doing what you're doing in the first place, or why people felt like you were able to lead in the first place, is because a lot of times you can't necessarily see some things in yourself that some people may see in you. So I think that not putting on the back burner what you were called to do, and not forgetting or losing sight of what you were doing in the first place.
Okay, I like that. So with passion, when you're doing something that you're passionate about, it's almost like I think it's fusion energy. Don't quote me on that because I'm not a scientist, but I think it's fusion energy that actually recycles itself and keeps energy going. Passion kind of operates in that way. When you're working within your passion, it creates this vitality within us that's like, man, it's like a high. It's a natural high from doing what you love and what you feel like you were designed to do. How do you take that energy that your passion generates and take that energy and use it in other areas of your life, whether it's relationships, whether it's business negotiation, friendships, whatever it may be? How do you utilize that energy in other areas of your life?
Well, I think that you have to realize that, regardless of what you like doing, there are other aspects to life as well. And I'm a guy, I believe in putting 100% into everything that you're going to do. So I think that you have to attack, family life, or, like you said, business conversation. I think you have to attack everything with that same mentality and that same fierceness, because if it's something that you're passionate about and something that you've done well in, I guess the question would be, why wouldn't you? If it's brought you nothing but success, if you've had nothing but, good results from doing all that stuff, all you can do is do the same thing and hope for the same outcome. So I believe that if you attack everything in your life with that same ferociousness, that same mentality, I think you should be successful, especially if you're already successful in the first thing that you attacked it with, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. It's almost like your first success proves that success is possible.
Right.
Versus
Absolutely.
all the failures that led up to that first success. You just would assume people typically quit because they're tired of failing, not because they can't succeed. So, I mean, that success proves it's what is it? Proof of concept.
Yeah.
So once you have proof of concept, you know that, well, I can do something that I put my mind to or that I imagined and succeed at it. So I think you're right. It does act as a component of future successes. We're at we got about 20 minutes left. For you guys that are in the chat right now, are participating live in the chat, if there's any questions that you want to ask, please take this moment to actually start entering those questions so that we have enough time to get to those questions before the end of the show. You guys are really quiet tonight, so you guys must just be like listening. But definitely, again, I appreciate you guys rocking with us in this conversation, and I don't want you to feel like you can't chime in, add something to the conversation or anything of the such. So with that, I want to ask you a couple more questions, and then I'll give you a chance to, we'll start wrapping the show.
Okay.
With passion, I think passion brings us things in life, and sometimes it's just internal fulfillment. Sometimes your passion puts you in a place where you can actually meet your future wife or your partner or whatever it may be. It sometimes puts you in the position to gain business opportunities. So for you to date, what has been the greatest thing that passion has brought for you to date?
It's taken a kid from McDonough, Georgia, and it showed him, that there's things outside of Georgia. I've been to, so many different states, so many different places, met so many different people, have been in conversations with people that, it's like, dang, how do you know him? Or, well, how'd you have the opportunity to meet him? And it's all from, my first love, which was chasing that ball around, like I said, I've had conversations with people that, have a few commas and a few zeros behind their name, just off the strength of what I've did, as a football player. Like I said, I've been to numerous states. Like I said, these doors have just been opened up for me just because of a love that I had from the first time I watched Deion Sanders on TV when I was 4 years old. So I think by chasing this passion, it's ultimately put me in the position that I'm at right now. And if you would have told me that this is what I would have been doing 5 years ago, I would have thought that you were crazy, but it's been so much fun for me. I enjoy what I do every single day. I work with tremendous people. I've made lifelong friends because of this. It's just been really, really fun, and I have a great time doing it. So I don't think there's a lot of people that can say that they wake up every single morning and say, dang, I get a chance to do what I love. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay. So with that, like I said, we're almost to the end of the show, but we've talked about a lot today or tonight. If you were to tell people like the 3 key points from this conversation that you think it's critical for them to take with them tonight, what do you perceive that those 3 points would be?
I would say number 1, don't be afraid to pursue what your passion is, regardless of how crazy people may think that it is. When I told people that I wanted to coach college football, you'd be amazed at the amount of mixed reviews that I got. You had a lot of people that were excited for you, and then you had other people that thought, that's the craziest thing that I've ever heard in my life. I don't think that anybody should, pursue a career like that with all the uncertainty. So I think 1 is you can't be afraid to pursue your passion. Number 2, I would say, when it comes to dealing with people that you may work with, that, you may be in charge of, I think that it's important to try to understand those people on more than just a surface level. A lot of times I think that people put on a facade or a face just for the sake of, getting up and getting going every single day, when at the end of the day, you never know what you say to them or what you don't say to them could really affect them. So I think that when you have an opportunity to interact with people, I think that, our duty is to take care of one another, regardless of how you feel, politically, spiritually, religiously, whatever it is. I think that we're all put here to take care of one another. So I would say, interact with people on more than just a surface level. And then number three, whatever you're doing, if it's not necessarily what you're doing, find a way to interact with what it is that you really love doing. I think that life's way too short to be miserable every single day without doing something that you enjoy. So whether that be, starting a book club, or maybe that's, going running, or doing whatever it is that you are really, really passionate about, don't not do those things just because you feel like you don't have time, or, somebody may think that it's silly. Because like I said, I think life's too short to not have some sort of joy and some sort of fulfillment in your life.
Man, y'all getting the word tonight. I don't know. I thought we was at church for a minute, but those some good bullets. So don't fear, pursue your passion. Don't allow fear to paralyze you, basically. Mm-hmm. Seek to understand those that you lead. I think sometimes we forget leadership is also a learning process. Like, right. You can't know everything, so be willing to learn, and then find a way to interact. And I take that when I hear you say that, I'm hearing find a way or make a way to interact with your passion, because you're right. Our life is very short, so the time that we are here, that we get to spend with one another and with ourselves, it's finite, and so we got to utilize that resource of time to the fullest. So I don't have any questions. You must have dropped undisputable facts.
Oh, hey, Taj. Thank you for listening. Taj is listening.
Hey, what's going on, Taj? Indisputable facts that you have dropped, because not a single question has been asked. You could almost just drop the mic here and we'd be done. But I always like in these shows to provide tools. I call them tools for the first row. So the reason why I use the name First Row, first off, my last name is Rowe, but it's really a play on words. So when I was into like really big into entrepreneurship, a person taught me that the people on the first row and on the front row make the most money, and they hear everything because there's no distractions between them and the speaker. So that's why this channel is called First Row. You guys are all on the first row, so there should be no distractions between you and what's actually going on the channel itself. But I like to provide on these Intersations what I call tools for the first row, for those people who are able to hear this message, whether you're watching live and or in the replay. I would like to drop these tools for you. So when I started thinking about this topic, what to do with passion and building the content around it, obviously I started thinking about what does the topic mean to me? What things can I contribute to the conversation? And how can I pull the best information possible from stories from my guest, Cousin Steve? So the first thing that I put for the tool on what to do with passion was take a journey to discover your passion. One of the things I like that you said, Stephen, was that, your passion taught you that there was something outside of the community that you grew up in. And so you've been able to travel and see different places. Before, when we were in the, what I call the green room, waiting to come live, we were talking about carne asada fries. And it's like, man, I got to try those things. Sure. You get into different places and you try different food. So you got to be willing to make a journey for your passion. And the reason why I say make the journey is because sometimes we get confused with all we know and passion. And a good example of this is when I was younger, I used to go to tons of leadership development camps. Like, I don't even know where all these leadership development camps were coming from, but I got to go to tons of them. They were put on by my youth minister. They were put on by my high school. They were put on by foundations. And for some reason, my name always came up and I was able to go to them. And what that did was it allowed me to go outside of my neighborhood, outside of the radius that I was used to seeing and my perception of what life was at the time, and start meeting children who were like doing classical music and playing violin, and mathematicians and dancers and poets. And so it really broadened my horizons and opened my scope to where I could see that there were way more things happening than just what was happening in the neighborhood that I went into. And so now as an adult, I know that what I'm doing in my passion today is not because it's the only thing that I know. I've been exposed to a variety of things. And so now I'm operating in a passion that I know is my passion versus only picking from A, B, C, or D.
Right.
So that's the first part is take a journey to discover your passion. You're not going to know what food you like if you don't go some other places and try them. I will tell you, seafood in Mexico is amazing. I don't even eat shrimp. And we went to a restaurant in Mexico and the shrimp looked so good. I was like, I'm gonna just order some and try it. And it's the best shrimp. It's probably the only shrimp I'll eat, but it was the best shrimp I've had in my life. Be willing to travel or be willing to journey to discover your passion. The second thing is that you have to protect your passion. I'm sorry, I'm trying to tell people, I'm trying to stop telling people what they have to do. My channel is a channel of choice. You can choose to do it or not choose to do it. But my recommendation is that you choose to protect your passion. We sometimes are so excited about what we do that we don't measure who we're doing it with or what we're sharing with people about it. And sometimes you might find somebody who is going back to that social media concept, maybe have some social media jealousy that they're holding on to. And so they'll hype you up about your passion. And then all of a sudden it's like, as soon as they get a chance to like sweep your legs from underneath you, like, what was that in Karate Kid, Cobra Kai? Sweep the leg, sweep the leg. As soon as they get to sweep the leg, they're trying to put you on the mat. So the second thing is that I recommend you protect your passion. Your passion is something that is for you and for the people that it impacts. But again, you can't tell everybody your plans. The worst thing that can happen to your passion, if it's like an entrepreneurial passion, is that you tell somebody and then they take your passion and monetize it and start a business and copyright you from being able to use your passion in the way you've seen it. So you got to protect. I recommend you protect your passion because it can be deflating if somebody poisons your well in your passion, and it can be deflating if somebody steals your well in your passion. The third thing that I have is that you have to believe that you have everything you need to live in your passion.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is you may not have it all right now, going back to that instant gratification, you may not have it all right now, but you have the mental capacity to expand your knowledge base, whether that's through reading books, through having mentors, through going to school, through going to the school of hard knocks, whatever it may be. You have the ability to expand your mind to grow into your passion. So that kind of comes back to I think it was Earl Nightingale. It says, "As a man or woman believes in his or her heart, so is he or she." And so what we believe we can do, we can do. What we believe we can't do, we can't do. Why? Because we can't see it. Going back to last week's Intersation where we were talking about still dreaming. The moment you lose your ability to dream, the moment you lose your ability to see something on the inside of you, that coincides with the moment that you lose your ability to manifest things that you can't see in today's reality. The laptop that we're using, the internet connection that we're using, all of that stuff did not exist at some point, and somebody's seen it in their mind and started compiling it together. And I don't care if you believe in conspiracy theories and it's alien technology. I don't care if you believe in God and God divinely put it in here and that's how it became. I don't care if you believe that it's some ancient civilization that lives underground now. I don't really care how you perceive that, but at some point it was not here and it is here today. So in the world, the crazy part is, going back to point number 2, the resources that were needed to create it were always present. So we have everything that we need today to be successful in that which we can see on the inside of us. It just takes a strong belief and a strong commitment. And as I will always say, you got to do the work. And then the fourth thing, and this is the last tool that I want to share with you guys today, but it's, you got to live your passion. I think that a lot of people have stopped living their authentic self in today's society. And the reason I think that is because of, we see so much in social media that we feel like the real us is not good enough. I was watching a video that was sent to me and it was talking about, we have these social media influencers, and what is influence? It kind of shifts perspective and it kind of moves society into a certain perspective. And so you influence people. And they were talking about females who are influencing people to see beauty as something that they see, but it is not something that is based off of an actual body type. Like it's something that has been built through plastic surgery, through what I call ornaments, like through certain types of decorations, these ornaments that we put on the Christmas tree to make it look pretty. They're now making that the concept of what beauty is. I literally seen a woman who like did this makeup tutorial, and I was just like, I got trust issues. I got trust issues. Like, she didn't look like that at the beginning, and now she's really pretty, but I would have talked to her how she was in the beginning. So I got trust issues because now I don't know what you look like under your face, which sounds crazy to say that, but that's how I feel about it. So you have to learn to live your passion and live it, make it a part, like intertwine it into your lifestyle, make it a part of who you are. When I'm out and about and I'm not on YouTube and I might be talking to somebody about what I do professionally or what I'm about or how I have fun, please believe YouTube comes up and I'm like, hey, check out the channel. Now they may or may not check it out. That's on them, but I'm still going to be producing content. So I'm making part of my life, a part of my passion, part of living my passion is going out and listening to people and them about them tell their stories, because I can bring those stories back to this platform and share them with you guys. And hopefully the lessons that I get are resonating within you as well. So those are the 4 tools that I have for me for this particular first row, tools on the first row. Again, it's just number 1 is take a journey to discover your passion. Number 2 is protect your passion. Number 3 is believe that you have everything you need to live in your passion. And number 4 is live your passion. Other than that, man, cousin, I've enjoyed this conversation. I kind of want to have another one with you, but I know you're busy, so we'll set up another one. We will.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know when it'll be, but we'll definitely set up another one. I mean, for those who are still live with us, if you want us to set up another one, please at least push like 2 or 3 or something. Push a number so we know that you guys are feeling this the way that I'm feeling this. So you did have some feedback here. Again, you've seen what Tosh said, but Brother Bruce also said that this is a great message, guys. Thank you for this. And I think it's always important to thank people when they're sharing their story. I think it's important that oh, somebody else, Sylvia just said they have to sign off, but lots of notes to read back over. Thank you. Hey, you see, I sit with a pen while I'm on these. I'm not here thinking I got all the answers. I sit with a pen. So thank you for tuning in, Sylvia. But it's always important I think it's important to give back, and I'll kind of close with this outside of a couple other things. I had a Facebook memory come up the other day, and it was talking about how there's stories that you have, and there's stories that I have, and stories that we all have, that if we take the time to share them with people, for them it shares for other people it shares a solution for them. And so I think that shared experience, like going back, you said something about like basically like we're here to take care of people. I think that sharing these stories is a part of giving that nurture back to the people and back to people in general. So I definitely appreciate you for being authentically you. Is there anything else you want to say before I close us out for the evening?
No, man, I just really appreciate you having me on here and giving me a platform, to kind of share my story, some of my story, and, share what I'm passionate about. I really appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight. That means a lot that you guys would sit here and take some time out of your day to listen to me and cuz I'll rap a little bit about things that we're passionate about. So thank you guys for everything. Thank you for having me on the show, man. And I can't wait to get back and spend a little bit more time with you and talk about some more things.
Yeah, hey, I have to take a trip out to Florida. I mean, I'm not coming during hurricane season, but I will
do that
when it's normal season. Or if you guys have a game that's close by to Utah, let me know, and I'll try to make that happen as well. But
absolutely, man.
Other than that, you guys, thank you for tuning in live. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the First Row YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please take a moment to like the video. There was tons of knowledge dropped in this video. The next show that will actually be on the First Row is actually tomorrow. It'll be at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that will be the Wednesday word. And that Wednesday word is going to be on Get Uncomfortable. But other than that, thank you guys for tuning in live. Appreciate you. If you like the video, share it. If you share it, like it. But we're always happy to engage with you in the comments below if you're watching on the replay. So other than that, thank you for tuning in. One love, peace, God bless, and welcome to the First Row.